And we welcome you to Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizers. Still going. And thanks to all of you that have been watching. To show our gratitude for the support, we are allowing each of you to bring a +1 to the program today and every week moving forward. That and Dan, the old Zeus, are going to send a copy of his new hit single, Flacco Jacket, from his band Ace of Base for your support. So,
I like it. I keep on waiting for the beginning of the show to not have us look ridiculous in these sunglasses, but we're just not there yet. It just hasn't happened yet.
Whatever. It at least my tan, I was out in the sun all weekend, is showing with the glasses really accentuated, by the way. I kind of like it. You know,
no, I mean, Mr. Beachman, Mr. Surfer.
That's right. It's winter in many parts of the country, not here. Here we go, 1 through 8, Dan. Kansas City Chiefs still atop, even though the Steelers are 9-0 for the first time in franchise history, and what a storied history it is. Not going to get to that right now. We're more interested in that 6, 7, 8 range, because why celebrate the positive when there are negatives to attack? Let's begin with the Ravens and how they found their way to number 6.
Yeah, they're kind of a tough team to figure out, because you see when things are clicking that they are as good as anybody in the league. But now they have 3 losses, and the 3 losses are Monday night in primetime to Patrick Mahomes, a Sunday spotlight game where they blew a 10-point lead to the Steelers, and now a Monday night game in soggy New England. And I know the weather played a role there too, but there's a pattern that's undeniable here, Money, that this Ravens team doesn't take a punch. And that is not typically a team that is how you describe a champion.
Well, and I think, there's the stat that continues to flash. It's very similar to the Kirk Cousins in the playoffs or Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football, that until you get over it, that stat is going to make an appearance in the lower third of the screen, and that's when they fall behind by 10 points, they don't win. This is not the same Ravens team that watched Lamar Jackson earn an MVP award last season, that stormed out to 14-2 and was the number 1 seed. It's built differently. That Ronnie Stanley is hurt. Hayden Hurst is gone. It's very reminiscent for me watching to the Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw, Stanford teams, when they ran power, when they had an extra offensive lineman out there, 3 tight ends, and it was just something you could not prepare for because they were the only ones in the league doing it. And so whenever you saw them in any given week, it was something that you just knew, okay, we got to try to weather this storm and see if we can survive it, and then try to get them the second time around. And guess what? That's happened. And I think it's happening again to some extent. I'm not saying that like Lamar was right in his whole, they're calling out our plays. Well, that's on you, Lamar, to then check out of that play if they know what's coming and get into something else. But we saw this, with Colin Kaepernick and Greg Roman, and this is very similar, where you have a different style of offense that can attack a defense, and then the second time around, they kind of figure it out. So looks right. Look, it's still a great team, great coach, reigning MVP, awesome defense. See if they can bounce back. But let's go to the team right below them.
But let me one more thing, Money. You have the reigning MVP, and there are. Right. I feel like there's a little bit of excuse making around Lamar at times. Go win a game, pick up the team when they need you, and it just hasn't happened in those 3 impact games. Yeah,
totally fair. And look, that's what's being asked of Josh Allen now, as I make that perfect segue into the Bills, because this dominant defense is not there anymore. He's now being asked, you're gonna have to go win some games for us, and he's been playing darn well these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he has, and that throw to Stephon Diggs with 34 seconds to play, it should have won the game, and 99 times out of 100 it does. And we're talking about how gutty the Bills were in this game, a Bills team that was kind of fell into a bit of a slump in the second half, and then were able to dig themselves out and make that play. And then to lose the way they did, that really hurts. So I don't ding them too hard for the loss, because on some level it's a fluky loss, but it's a type of loss that could put a fork in a road for a team. You could either get stronger and move on from it, or you go in the tank, and then when they write the story about the season in January, they say, oh, things were never the same after what happened in the desert.
And I think to borrow a theme, but not the statement from you from earlier, it's power rankings. It's not power future playoff position. Yes, losing that game is probably going to hurt, especially with the Dolphins now knocking at their door and the Patriots maybe being relevant. But at the same time, like you said, you can't ding them for a Hail Mary that was just a ridiculous play by DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, just like it's hard to elevate the Cardinals, on a low percentage play. The one thing I'll just add to everything you said is Josh Allen hit a lull. And young quarterbacks, when they hit a lull, you just want to see them pull out of it. And he's been able to do that. He's been back to that elite level that we saw at the earlier part of the season. So for me, that's why I think you got him right in that right spot at number 7 in the top quadrant, because he has returned to that level of play at the quarterback position. Let's finish it up with, I think, probably the one team that's the most surprising for folks to see in the top 8, and that's the Raiders.
Yeah, and they are different than the Raiders team last year. I feel like this is a team that can take a punch and give it back to you. And again, they've been a bully this season. We see it with their running game and what they're able to do with Josh Jacobs on the ground. And then Derek Carr complements them with his ability to mix things up. And he's been a better player this year. And the defense now stepping up. 4 interceptions of Drew Lock in the Week 10 victory. So I just like where the Raiders are. And I love the litmus test of the Chiefs coming to town on Sunday, because right now they're a good story and they're a good team. But if they beat the Chiefs again, it kind of shakes up the entire league.
Yeah, and I think if it goes the other way, let's just say the Chiefs rout them and beat them by 4 scores, then I think we'll know that you would put them a little too high. And they are a good team that's taken that next step, but they need to add pieces on defense to really be a formidable, playoff contender, a team that can win a playoff game. I think you hit it on the head. They're a bully. And I said this last week coming out of the game because we called it the Charger game. That interior line moves so well and they are so strong, Jackson and Hudson, that these backs are getting to the edges. And it is hard to slow that rush attack down. Be it Josh Jacobs. They've made Devontae Booker, who so many of us were excited about coming out of Utah and just did not have it happen for him in Denver. He's been a great back for the Raiders. Look, John Gruden is a bright offensive mind. It's why so many teams tried to get him out of the Monday Night Football booth to come. But he also is kind of limited to that side of the ball, right? He really doesn't care about the defense, which is why it is kind of important for Mike Mayock and others to help build that side. And we're going to see whether or not they're able to build off that, to have these long 8-10-minute drive. Well, not 10 minute, but 6 to 8 minute drives using the running game, and then have an opportunistic defense that they can maybe, like you said, have them earn that spot into the top 8 and be a legitimate playoff threat.
All right, how about this for a setup for the game? The bully Raiders meeting the Chiefs, the big man on campus, flagpole, 3:00. Sell it.
Oh, 3:00 high. I'm all right with that. I can get behind that. Buddy Revell, dude.
Who you
Let's
got?
Go. Who do I got? Buddy. That's who I got. You can be whatever. I can't remember the guy's name that had the goofy sweater at 3:00 high, who stole the money from the cash register. When we return, Horace Greeley. What did he say? Go West, young man. We're going to get a look at the 3-way tie atop the NFC West. We're going to sort out who's top of the pops between the 6-3 Cards, 6-3 Rams, and 6-3 Seahawks.
Bills drop 2 men back. Murray back to throw. Flushed out. Rolling left in trouble. Slips a tackle. Got to launch it. He does. Left side. Into the end zone. Jump ball. Is it caught? Is it caught? Oh my goodness, it's caught. DeAndre Hopkins caught it. He caught it for a touchdown with 1 second left. I can't believe it. You've got to be joking me. Hopkins reaches up with 3 defenders around him and pulls it in, and the Cardinals lead it 32-30 with a second left.
One day, Money, Lucy is going to not pull that ball away, and you're going to get a call like that, and the Chargers can't ruin it for you.
That's mean. That's Dave Pash, premier play-by-play man. Dan Anzus is mean. Here we go, 9 through 16. What do we see? We see NFC West, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, all right there, bunched together in 9 through 13. So let's get after it here, Dan. I would assume, based on your power rankings, you think the Cardinals are the best team in the NFC West.
I wouldn't go that far, but I think they have the most explosive player in Kyler Murray. And what we saw, I think it gets lost in the overall hullabaloo around the Hail Mary. But look what he does here. Look him scramble,
it's ridiculous.
Stutter step, get away from a would-be sack, and then as he's falling out of bounds, connect with DeAndre Hopkins. It's just a brilliant play on both sides of the ball, obviously. So this, to me, is just a acknowledgement of how special Murray has been in year 2. I think he's somehow been even better than what we thought he could have been going into the season, where we all kind of expected the Lamarian leap. So I think all the teams are very close, and it could go any direction, but Kyler could be the X factor.
This is not recency bias, and I just hate the whole, it's so hot takey. No, look, the Rams defense is great. The offense struggles. The Seahawks offense is okay. It's struggling right now, but the defense struggles. The Cardinals are good, right? And Kyler Murray's, he's the best quarterback in the division. Ask 31 defensive coordinators, which guy do you not want to see on Sunday? They're all going to say Kyler Murray. With all due respect to Russell Wilson, you cannot account for this cartoon-like speed, the ability to extend plays. We saw it last week against the Dolphins in that amoeba defense when he may not have recognized what was in front of him. Whatever, I'll just run away from it and throw for 300 and rush for another 100. He's going to do this every single week because he's that special of a player. And like you said, that one play, even though it was a low percentage Hail Murray, it really kind of highlights how special an individual that is at the most important position on the field. But that brings us to probably the best unit, Dan, in the division, and that's the defense of the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, and we saw it. I think their versatility on defense really jumped out to me against the Seahawks in a game where Aaron Donald had 0 tackles. I think that's only happened one other time in his brilliant career. You still had a big game from the defense. Leonard Floyd had a career-high 3 sacks, and Jalen Ramsey did amazing work in the back end. So this is a defense that has big-time players at all 3 levels, and it's carrying them right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we just want to focus on Sean McVay. He's a dynamic personality. We know who he is. He's the youngest head coach in the league, all of these things, right? And he kind of came on the scene and was celebrated, understandably so. They went to a Super Bowl. That's not this team. The offense is not great, but the defense is special. And hey, by the way, it's another young, like 30-something-year-old coordinator, Brandon Staley, that's got it going. Jalen Ramsey locked up DK Metcalf, and to the point where there were moments when Metcalf was open, and Russell just wasn't even looking that way because he had looked that way too many times, and Ramsey had him locked down to a point where he just stopped going there. You mentioned it wasn't even a huge Aaron Donald game. Now, it's always a huge Aaron Donald game because of all the attention he attracts. But
True.
This is going to be the Rams moving forward. They're going to try to win games by limiting their opponents to 10, 13 points and recognizing that their offense might not give them more than 21 moving forward. And you know what? It just might be good enough.
Yeah, I feel like the offense will get better. I think I'm a little higher on the offense than you are, Money, because I like their backfield. It's a 3-headed attack that I think is proficient, and the wide receivers, even though they're not having big years, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Van Jefferson flashes a little bit. Jared Goff has just got to be better, and I guess that's where you and I differ.
I think he can be, Dan. This is not a good Seahawks pass defense, and Jared Goff wasn't good throwing the ball against it. So I still need to see it. It was terrible against the Dolphins. I'm going to need to see it before I'm a believer. But let's go to those Seahawks and you've got them third in the pecking order in the NFC West.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been such a strange year in Seattle. They started 5-0. and Russell Wilson was playing as well as anyone's ever played quarterback during that stretch. And you knew he was going to come down. So maybe we shouldn't be so surprised now that they've lost 3 of 4, because Wilson has dipped into a little bit of a funk. And it is a funk because it's 7 turnovers in 2 weeks here. So he's not protecting the football. And the defense isn't good enough to pick up the slack when Wilson isn't great. And the frustration, Money, for Pete Carroll is that the defense was good. We just talked about it. They kept Jared Goff from lighting him up, and they just needed Wilson to be good, not magnificent on Sunday, and he wasn't. And I think that had to really be annoying for Seattle.
Yeah, I don't need to regurgitate what everybody's already heard. It was a weird game from Russell Wilson. Just looked like the pressure really got to him, even when it wasn't there. You hear a lot of the scouts and the analysts say he kept dropping his eyes, that there were moments where he had open players and, had open receivers in the end zone. DK Metcalf had flashed open, and he just stopped looking his way. So I'm willing to chalk it up to just a weird game for Russell Wilson. And you know what? It's a division opponent. I mean, I think that's what people always forget to focus on in these type of matchups. When you play an opponent twice a year, every single season, and a lot of the players are the same, you have an advantage, against one another, whichever side, whatever you want to focus on, right? You just know tendencies, you kind of understand one another, and these type of games are willing to jump out at you. I still think it's bunched real tight, but just to kind of put a button on it, I'm with you. I think the Cards are the number 1, the Rams with that defense number 2 right now, and the Seahawks are going to have to show us something defensively and creating a pass rush and getting Russell Wilson right to kind of climb back to the top of that NFC West.
So do you, if I had to ask you right now, who's winning this division, do you think the Cardinals do?
I think it's Arizona. Yeah, I have that much. I have that much belief in Kyler Murray. I really do. I think it is so. We saw it last year with the Ravens. When you have a weapon that just teams cannot figure out, it is I think it's the greatest separator of every team, when you feel like they're pretty close to being equal. Look, I would love for the Cardinals to have a better pass rush. I don't think Patrick Peterson has been anything like the Patrick Peterson we used to talk about as the best cover corner in the league. But that's what Kyler Murray can do. That's what a quarterback like that can do. Not to mention arguably the best receiver in the NFL on your squad as well. Do you not agree? Do you not think the Cardinals are
No, I think I don't want to be a coward here, but it's just impossible to pick right now. They're just they're all at the same level to me. And Patrick Peterson is not the same guy. He got beat for 2 touchdowns on Sunday. I'll wave the coward flag.
All right, 2 of the best teams in the NFC West will square off on Thursday Night Football this week as the Cardinals. We just mentioned them, and the Seahawks. Just talked about them. Get after it. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 p.m., followed by kickoff at 7:30 Eastern on NFL Network, Fox, and Amazon Prime Video. Up next, are we the only ones around here that give a darn about the rules? Division champ makes the playoffs, no matter the record. Our mystery guest goes over which of the NFC East entrants is set to take part in the tournament, albeit with maybe 4 or 5 wins.
Jacoby Myers. Carrying it out. Direct first. Yeah. Dives and catches in the end zone.
Rojo pops it free. It'll be a 98-yard touchdown run.
What a call. Touchdown. Third of the day for Alvin Kamara as fantasy owners rejoice.
Malcolm Brown. Oh, what a hole. His second of the game. Touchdown. 34 yards for Daniel Jones.
Devontae Adams, touchdown.
Jump. He'll be arriving in the end zone. Oh, he stepped out of bounds at the 1 to run the rest of the game clock out. Jacobs going. Jack punch, baby.
It is good, baby. Matt Prater sends it through for 59 yards out.
The Pittsburgh Steelers remain unbeaten with a decisive win.
Murray back to throw. Slips a tackle. Jump ball. DeAndre Hopkins caught it. You can't cover no touchdown.
Miraculous. It's Murray magic.
All right, here we get a look at the old Zeusers third quadrant, 17 through 24. The Bears take a serious tumble, 6 spots as they drop one on Monday Night Football. But put a pin in that for a moment. We'll get to it in the next segment because right now we got someone important waiting. Well, you know what time it is, Dan. We have been through 2.5 segments and we're at each other's throats. So we have to introduce somebody new to the conversation so we
Necessary.
can take it through a full hour. It is mystery guest time, which means the football logos of all 32 find their way between us. You say stop, and somebody much better at this than we are appears to help make sense of the nonsensical.
That's the secret sauce here. Someone better than us. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy, and stop.
Hey!
Somebody
Brian
better
Baldinger.
than us. Brian Baldinger. Hey, this is and nobody ever asked me, Baldy, in the NFL Network for ideas for original content, but this is my pitch,
Yes.
and tell me if you're on board with this, okay? Post-pandemic, post-vaccine, you're a world traveler. Follow Baldy around the world in his first year after the pandemic, because who knows what's going to go down as you go across the globe on your little adventures.
Yes, Dan, I love it. I love it. Like, where's Baldy? I mean, where's Waldo? Where's Baldy? I mean, I'm thinking, I had a trip to Romania planned.
Oh,
and
man.
I mean, just come over. It's right on the Danube right there, man. We'll just take a nice little river ride down there and beautiful capital city. I mean, I think it would be a good start.
Sounds wonderful.
Yes, Romania with Baldy would be something I would subscribe to. In the meantime, you can follow him at Baldy NFL on Twitter. The breakdowns are amazing. And Baldy, we'd ask you to do one of your breakdowns here on Daniel Jones. Seems like peaks and valleys, polarizing when it comes to the fan base, what you've seen from the quarterback, and whether or not, immediate future and foreseeable future, he's the answer for the Giants.
Well, I mean, it always starts with the turnovers. There was too many last year. There was too many to start the season. But in the last 2 weeks, he hasn't turned the ball over, hasn't thrown an interception, hasn't lost a fumble. Jason Garrett has been on him throughout the year. And I think if he can limit those down the stretch, I mean, first of all, I think the Giants will play better as a result. And I think you can really forecast the future because he sees the field very well. He's very accurate. His receivers have been in and out of the lineup. They have juggled the offensive line, but that looks like it's getting much better to me right now. And so I think he's got a good future as long as he can continue, to take care of the football. And that was a big win against the Eagles. And, you look at the stat page, and there was no fumbles and no interceptions. And I think he's been on the right track the last 2 weeks.
You mentioned the Eagles, Baldy, and I think a lot of people are stunned by Carson Wentz's season, and there are a lot of factors that play into it, and you're so good at analyzing the tape. I'm curious, what do you see? Because is this a physical issue that's leading to his downfall this season, and really the past couple of years since the ACL, he's been on a downward trend? Is it scheme based? Is it confidence based? What are you seeing?
I think, Dan, it's from here up. I mean, from the neck up. I mean, it's all inside of his head. I mean, if you go and look at the first play of the game last week against the Giants, first pass play, they run a switch route at the top, and Jalen Reagor is coming free, and he hitches one extra time, Dan, and by that time, by the extra hitch, Bradbury recovers from the switch route where he gets bubbled, which is the whole play is designed to do that, but you got to throw it with the anticipation, and so that's just one small little piece. But I think Carson has all of the skills. I mean, he's got everything it takes to be successful right now. but he doesn't trust his protection at times. He's far too dramatic in the pocket of when he feels pressure. The great ones can just parry a punch. I mean, he sprints to the other side of the ring. And so I think there's just things that he can do within the scheme. I think the scheme is fine. There's players that are coming open, but you can't wait. You've got to get the ball out of his hands. He's got to trust what he sees. I think that I think there is a confidence issue there. We saw it last year, and then the last month of the season, he just gradually got better, albeit it was against NFC East competition. It wasn't the best in the league, but he did improve dramatically in the month of December a year ago. I think they still have their fingers crossed that he can do that. The one guy, and for whatever reason, he only threw it to him once the other day, Travis Fulgham is a guy that he implicitly trusts, and he throws the ball like he did in 2017 when he targets him. He only targeted him one time last week. But to Travis Fulgham, it looks like he just trusts him to throw it to him.
Baldy, sticking in the NFC East, I just had a chance to call that game with the Chargers against the Dolphins. Tua is now 3-0 as a starter, and that was the debate, right? New head coach, new front office. Do we move on from Dwayne Haskins and take Tua, or is Chase Young that much of a generational talent that you take the defensive lineman? Based on, I know it's early, but kind of your thoughts in that moment of the draft and your thoughts now, halfway through a season and 3 starts into Tua's career.
Well, there was the injury history that you had to consider. And the Dolphins, they considered it, and they said the risk and reward, it was worth it. The Redskins, maybe they thought that was part of it, right, Matt? And then they thought, okay, then there's Chase Young. And if he could be a Julius Peppers, if he could be a Myles Garrett, if he can be a Nick Bosa, whatever, if he could be that player, we can't pass him up. And then you go, okay, the quarterback situation, we still have Dwayne. We didn't draft him, so we don't have to, completely just buy into him. I mean, let's evaluate him on what we see, how he practices, and all that stuff. I think in hindsight right now, maybe they would go with Tua because he looked pretty good to me, although I thought, you saw it, I thought there was a couple questionable balls that he threw the other day that weren't intercepted, that, maybe next Sunday are intercepted. It went right through Kenneth Murray's hands, threw one into the end zone, had one tipped up over the middle, and 5 Chargers are flailing to land with it. So I thought there was some he got away with the other day. But, I think the Redskins are fine with where they're at right now. I don't think they have regrets.
All right, let me shade this pitch a little bit before you go, Baldy. How about Baldy vampire hunting in Romania with the old Zeuser and Matt Money Smith?
Oh, look at that.
Let's
get
do
assistance.
I've got it, and I've got some Romanians I know over there that are prepared to roll out these lavish Romanian meals. All right, and I don't even want to tell you what that involves or what it includes, but that's when you bring the cameras and we just have a feast. A feast.
I think that's the key. I don't want to know what it is. I'm just going to eat it. If
Vampire heart.
Fancy yourself a football fan, you best be following our Brian Baldinger and getting those breakdowns to build your football brain. At Baldy NFL on Twitter, Baldy. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Are we predicting a Patriot playoff push after they raised the Ravens on Sunday night? We'll break down Belichick's bunch next. Back on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Still going. We said we would get to it. We put that pin in it. Now that pin is out, and we are looking at 17 through 24. And, Dan, let's focus on number 17, the Patriots with a big victory over the Ravens on Sunday night.
Is it a grenade pin? What is the pin exactly?
It's like a push pin.
Oh,
you know,
push
like,
pin.
hey, I'm going to get to this later. I'm going to put that in the cork board there.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm going to pull it down, and now we're getting to it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so the Patriots are at 17. They're up 4 spots. That means, to me, they're right in the mix now for a potential playoff spot. They got a ways to go because there's a logjam of 6-3 teams. However, I do believe that their demise has been overblown a little bit because you have the best coach ever in Bill Belichick. You have one of the top offensive lines in football. You have Cam Newton, a veteran QB who's not the Cam of old, but still a savvy guy who's been making plays. Damian Harris, to me, is a running back that is on the rise in our league. Copyright Troy Aikman. And finally, J.C. Jackson, cornerback, leads the league in interceptions. And, oh, by the way, Stephon Gilmore, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, is out with an injury. But when he comes back, they get that much better. The Patriots are not as horribly off as some people paint them.
Yeah, I'll piggyback that with a couple of things. One, they only average 21 points per game, right? And if you're doing that, that means your defense has to be pretty darn good. Well, it certainly helps to have Bill Belichick as your defensive coordinator, no matter what the pieces might be. And we've seen him do that. You know, I mentioned Amoeba defense a little bit earlier. Brian Flores, one of his disciples, they do the same thing. It's always a challenge for opponents. Defensively, look, they're mid-pack. They allow more than they score, but they get after it. They have 15 takeaways, nearly 2 per game. And if you're doing that with, as you already mentioned, Damian Harris being a heck of a find, what does that mean? It means close games, that you are going to be playing close games moving forward. And I don't know. I think I'm pretty comfortable if it comes down to the final couple possessions with Bill Belichick as the head coach, as you mentioned, arguably the greatest to have ever coached any team sport. So I think it lines up pretty well for the Patriots. Look, 25 through 32. We already went through the NFC East as we move on from the Patriots to the final quadrant. You see it here, and I mean, that's what this is, right? It's Eagles, Cowboys, and the Washington football team. We already talked about the Giants after that big win, and Brian Baldinger did it masterfully, so no need for us to rehash that. Baldy, a great guest, and speaking of guests, all right, it's time for Power Moves presented by Energizer, and we bring in the captain of coefficients, the pride of predictive analytic outfits everywhere. It is our Cynthia Freeland, who is going to feature findings today. Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, you are attacking Dan's rankings by using math, correct?
Correct. I mean, I put on the glasses, I got the calculator out, we are ready to go. Dan, you got some things wrong.
There we go.
Alert. Let's hear what you got.
You have the Seahawks at 13. What? That's third in the NFC West. I don't understand. So first and foremost, you think that the Colts are better than the Seahawks. So I think you think Phillip Rivers is better than Russell Wilson. That's how the transitive property works. That's an interesting one for me because I still have the Colts winning the NFC West. This is Russell Wilson. Just so you know, this is his receivers. That's DK Metcalf. There's also Tyler Lockett. Even David Moore has some value in this. So please, what? Explain how you don't have the NFC West being won by the Seahawks.
Transitive properties, quote unquote, have no place in the power rankings. Listen, the Seahawks are a good team. They're in jail right now. They're in power rankings jail. And if you're in power rankings jail and you're sitting at 13, things could be worse. They have a chance to shoot up if they can get back on track. But it's been a rough few weeks for them now.
If they
Dan
can
just got TP'd. Straight TP'd on power rankings. You got transitive property. I'm not sure, by the way, just quickly, I'll put my button on this, if math is aware that there are 2 sides to a football team, offense and defense. Yeah. All right, let's go Titans versus Colts, Cynthia.
Okay, so I know the outcome was that the Colts won last week. However,
yes,
the Titans are going to win the division, and that means they should be ranked ahead of the Colts at number 12. When you have the combination of Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Ryan Tannehill, you're going to have a better opportunity. Now, I understand. I saw what happened as well. But I think when the rematch happens, it's going to be a different outcome. And remember, the Colts' schedule leading up to this has not been as difficult as the Titans. The Titans will get a more favorable schedule going forward. So therefore, Titans and Colts should be flip-flop. This one isn't as bad, though, because it's only two spots.
By my transitive property, I declare that you are wrong here. The Colts absolutely balled out in a big spot on Thursday night, and they deserve to be ahead of the Titans. Do I think the Titans have a higher ceiling? Yes, I agree with you on that. But this is a ranking in the moment, and in this moment where the Titans are and they're scuffling a little bit on offense, Ryan Tannehill has to get back on track here. I think the culture above them, but not forever.
Okay,
I thought it was
not
supposed
forever.
to be like variables, right? It was supposed to be X, Y, and Z, not A.J. Brown and Phillip Rivers. This is supposed to be independent of individuals where you have already passed judgment when it comes to your math. You got something against Rivers. That's what's going on there, Cynthia. But let's wrap it up with the Raiders. You do not like the Raiders at number 8.
Okay, 8 is a little too rich for my blood. I do think that they make the playoffs, but this would suggest that they're going to be like the first wild card in because you don't have them ahead of the Chiefs, which would be totally crazy. But 8, 10, too high. I don't even know what we're thinking here. To me, it should be more like they should be 14, 13. You think the Seahawks are not as good as the Raiders?
The Seahawks.
Right now, in this moment in time, I believe the Raiders are a better football team than the Seahawks. It doesn't mean it will end that way. I like the Raiders, and I like what I've seen from them over the past several weeks.
Money, you talked about defense versus offense. You got to take that one into consideration in this one, too, because you think Derek Carr and I'm not suggesting that Derek Carr isn't good. He's having the best season of his career, but this is a situation where it's still Russell Wilson. He stops turning the ball over because they stop pressuring him. I can't. The Seahawks are just so wrong that it messes all the other ones up.
I know that the word identity carries a different definition when it comes to math, but in the world of football, it is important to have an identity. And considering the Seahawks are trying to generate a pass rush with Jamal Adams or Bobby Wagner, they don't know if they have a running game. Is Russ going to cook? Is he not going to cook? It certainly seems like the Raiders kind of have what they are figured out, and they're doing it pretty well, which is why earlier I kind of agreed with Dan. I like what the Raiders are doing so far through half of the season.
But this high?
You know what, Cynthia? I've had enough. I've had enough of you coming after my rankings. They're solid gold, baby. Now I want to ask you about something else. Okay, this is important. This has been bothering me for days now, and you're an analytics expert, and you got the machine. So I need to get the word from you. Nick Chubb looking to ice the game for the Browns over the Texans on Sunday. Darts down the sideline, 59 yards. They're up 10-7. He steps out of bounds at the 1-yard line to ensure. He believes a Browns victory, 10-7. Okay, so here's my question. First of all, this is never happening if Todd Gurley doesn't do what he did a few weeks ago and put it in poor Nick Chubb's mind. My question to you, because I know he was getting tons of hero worship for being such a team player, for stepping out of bounds. What's analytically more sound? Going up 17-7 with 67 seconds to play and factor in the opponent and the weather, or 10-7 with 2 necessary quarterback center exchanges to ice the game.
Okay, so the answer is by a tiny, tiny, tiny margin, like I think less than 2%. I think I looked at it as like 1.7 in my model, something like that. He should have scored the touchdown by about 2%.
That's what I'm saying. Money. Yeah. See, you doubted me. I knew it. You score the touchdown.
Yeah. Keep going.
2% because it's multiple possessions.
Are you done, Dan? Because here's the real answer to the question. And Cynthia, I don't know what formula you want to plug this in, but when you go back in the locker room and the guy that's the gunner doesn't have to run down on kickoff, and those dudes don't have to engage on blocks, and you don't have to have an offensive line and a defensive line engage and make more football plays, which if you're not aware, it's a violent game. You're a hero in the locker room for taking 2 kneel downs as opposed to actually having to play more football, Dan. How about that?
No. And the people connected to the desert were killed by that. Fantasy teams are killed by that. Nick Chubb could lose money because of that.
Players want to play. Players want to play. Players want to play.
They when they can take 2 kneel downs, they do not. I can promise you, they don't want to go down on kickoff. NFL.com/Freeland, FRELUND. When we return, it is my favorite segment of this hour-long session, Impact Matchups. The 3 tilts that carry extra importance when it comes to impact on the old Zeusers power rankings for next week. Throw you out in the desert. All right, let's get to impact matchups, the meetings that mean the most. Looking forward to next week's power rankings, Dan. And we start with Titans versus Ravens. Two of the top teams, but I think it's safe to say they're both flawed football teams right now. The Ravens defense been letting down a little bit these last couple. The Pats picked on Patrick Queen, the middle linebacker, quite a bit. I don't have as much concern over that group as I do the quarterback. This should be a get-right game for Lamar Jackson, like it was for Phillip Rivers this past week. The Titans are searching for anything on that side of the ball. Meanwhile, the Titans, they got the cheat code, right? They did it last year. Go up 10, lean on a running game, and get out with a win.
Total meltdown by the Titans special teams last Thursday night. So you got to keep that in mind when you're trying to evaluate where they are. But also, the defense is not good. It hasn't been good all year. So I agree with you. I believe this plays right into Baltimore's hands.
Let's go Rams-Bucks. And just when you were ready and so many wanted to write off Tom Brady, as some 43-year-old has been, he lights it up for 341 and 3 touchdowns to 3 different dudes. The Bucks are stacked. They're back near the top of the power rankings after pummeling the Panthers. But as we discussed earlier, man, this Rams defense is good. Like, it is darn good. And even though Jared Goff has not been good, their running game is working. So they're playing D. They're running the ball. Guess what, by the way? Ronald Jones, history-making run here. Fight on. It's all the USC fans have to celebrate anyway. But this is going to be, I think, they always say styles make the fight. Rams, second in yards, second in points. Meanwhile, the Bucks defense is tied for first in turnovers, and we know Jared Goff's been a little loose with the football. So I'm looking forward to a defensive battle in this one.
I could see it, and the Bucks have been crummy in these island games, these primetime matchup. Bruce Arians announced this week that he's changing up their practice schedule to practice in primetime, which is the sign of a coach in a total panic about how he thinks his team's going to perform when the lights are on. It'll be very interesting to see how they perform here.
All right, finally, I'll mention, and this one certainly does not live up to the level as the prior two, but Lions at Panthers. And I guess it's me just playing confirmation bias here, and obviously a lot of it's predicated on the health of each team, but specifically the quarterbacks. This is the stretch, right, for the Panthers. I said they are going to ruin somebody's playoff hopes. And the Lions fans are excited. The Lions are excited. We told you, look, this is the stretch where we win 4 or 5 in a row and we make it back into the postseason. Well, this is where the Panthers can upset you, because the Lions they just beat the Washington football team. Now they get the Panthers, then they get the Texans, then they get the Bears. But again, Carolina, so well coached. I know they've lost 5 straight, but I think this is where it kind of just moves the Lions out of that top, inside the top 24 and outside of that fourth quadrant. They're going to slip back after this one.
Yeah, the Lions cannot be trusted on any level. They can be beaten by anyone on any given week. And the Panthers, listen, the problem here, Money, and I love Matt Rule. He's a Jersey guy, and I think they've been fun to watch. But that defense, they could have given up a 60-burger against the Bucks if Tom Brady precise with his passing. So they have a major problem on defense, and if Matt Stafford can make throws, they're going to score points as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would also remind, and again, look, nobody defends Matt Rule more than me, right? So it's probably confirmation bias. But again, it's a ridiculously young defense. They used every single one of their draft picks on D. They're all playing right now. And I think this is a take your lumps kind of season, do some inventory. But I will not be surprised to see them jump up and snatch the Lions in this one. Let's get to honest assessments, Dan, and that is quick inventory on a couple teams that we had yet to talk about, courtesy of the author, the old Zeuser, of the author of the column known as the Power Rankings.
You call
New
it an
Orleans
article.
Saints.
New Orleans Saints. This is crazy. This is fun. Sorry to see what happened to Drew Brees here, although Tavavius Street should have not been called for a penalty on that hit. Now we are in a world where Jameis Winston will likely be the quarterback for one of the best teams in football. We're here, Money, and I can't wait to see it. And it could go very, very well, to the point where maybe Drew Brees gets healthy and Sean Payton has second thoughts about who should be the quarterback, or it could go so poorly that it ruins New Orleans' season.
I would say we are in the period of the football season where Alvin Kamara rockets to the top of MVP lists everywhere, because I would assume Sean Payton recognizes I got issues at quarterback, regardless if it's Jameis or Taysom Hill. Let's just put it in the hands of old number 41 and let him win some games.
He's been awesome.
Us. How about honest assessment on the Browns? They're 6-3. The NFL wants them in the postseason.
Yeah, it feels like they've had a pretty nice schedule this year, and they've taken advantage of it. Nick Chubb, obviously, beyond the hero worship around stepping out of bounds at the 1-yard line. If I could have 53,
let it go.
If I could have 53 Nick Chubbs, I would take him. Okay, we get it. But he is a huge gain to that team with Kareem Hunt. My one thought on them is Baker Mayfield. I don't know if he's special, and can you win without a special quarterback in today's league?
I'll just quickly, my eyes will dart low here because how about Philadelphia, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Baltimore, New York, the Jets. They have both the Giants and the Jets. This team is going to win 10 games. They're going to be in the postseason. That playoff drought. Well, unless, of course, they remind everybody they're the Browns. All right, let's get in on the Vikings. They get the win last night against the Bears on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and it's a good, get the monkey off my back game for Kirk Cousins, who wins on Monday night for the first time in 10 tries. But I didn't learn that much more about them. I think the Bears drag teams down to their level and muck it up, and the Vikings survived just barely.
Yeah, they did. And look, for all of the Henry Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb, oh my gosh, CeeDee Lamb's added to the Cowboys. How about Justin Jefferson?
Awesome.
There's your best receiver from the rookie class, by the way. All right, up next, get loose on a Zeus. Your snarky tweets taking them on. To wrap it up, let's see. Apparently, Ed Zeuser failed at math and common sense because he's unaware 9 and 0 is greater than 8 and 1. That is so snark, P-Bar. So snark. More of that next.
I did fail math once.
Well, we call it constructive criticism. That is a euphemism for the incoming that the old Zeuser has to take for authoring this article. At Dan Hanzus, wait. The Dolphins beat both the Cards and the Rams, and yet they are behind the Cards and the Rams. Who is this reporter and how is he working professionally? Old Dick Halpern here wants your gig. Dick Halpern coming for your gig. He wants you fired, Dan.
I know. I don't understand when people try to get people fired on Twitter, but Twitter can be a horrible place sometimes. The Dolphins are a very nice story, but I'm not ready to say top 10. You can't get a defensive score and a special teams impact play every week. What happens when those dry up?
Well, as someone who just watched it, it certainly feels like you can. That team is good. That team is really good. Here we go. Derek Carter writes, I've got to know how much Dan Hanzus gets paid for his power ranking because this cat, I like cat talk, has some dizzying logic. I'm pretty sure he's looking to get in PM15's clique.
What is this guy like? He's like a jazzy cat or something. Who talks like that? Like
KC loses, cat. Steelers lose, KC stays atop. Saints will jump the Steelers with 2 losses. You're pathetic. And clear and obvious bias against the Steelers. Ben should be in the comeback player of the year along with MVP.
Yeah,
comeback player. One more, and then you'll react to all of them. Steelers go 19-0, win Super Bowl. NFL writers coming in at number 2. Lots of respect for Pittsburgh, but are they the real deal?
That's pretty good,
right, Dan,
Nathan. I respect that. I enjoy
react to them all, my friend.
The problem that the Steelers have, and it's an unfair one because I know you've won every game. You don't have Patrick Mahomes, and it's that simple here at the Power Rankings. That's exactly right. Thank you for your patronage, a star-studded cast, Cynthia Baldy, thanks to them. Because it's a hate-filled show, next week, bring your enemies, your ex-lovers, all of them. We welcome you. Thanks for watching.